hey, we're British, we'll have a costume drama, right? Oh, I see what you mean. Not a costume drama, a drama about a costume. Yeah, that's not as good. Hi, I'm Phil, welcome to my channel where I like to talk about all the geeky pop culture I like and consume things like Star Trek and the MCU and Doctor Who, which is what we're talking about lots at the moment because there's lots going on with the new series. There's a new era approaching with Russell T Davies. David Tennant's back. Ncuti Gatwa's going to take over after him. There's lots of stuff going on. We've got to start a new edition of Doctor Who magazine, which is what kind of this relates to, this video, because we're talking about some comments made by Russell T Davies in that magazine that have provoked lively debate, let's say, on Twitter. Let's say lively debate. This all comes down to the fact that Russell didn't want David Tennant to appear in Jodie Whittaker's outfit when he regenerated. Now, here is what the quote is from the actual magazine itself. "I was very certain that I didn't want David to appear in Jodie's costume," states Russell. "I think the notion of men dressing in women's clothes, the notion of drag, is very delicate. I'm a huge fan of that culture and the dignity of that. It's truly a valuable thing, but it has to be done with the immense thought and respect. With respect to Jodie and her doctor, I think it can look like mockery when a straight man wears her clothes. To put a great big 6-foot Scotsman into them looks like you're taking the mickey. Also, I guarantee you it's the only photograph some of the papers would print for the rest of time. If they can play with gender in a sarcastic or critical way, they will. We could have the Doctor dressed as a knight, or dressed as God, or dressed as William Hartnell, and the only photo they'd print would be of David in what they consider to be women's clothes. Then it becomes weaponised as a mockery of feminine traits, a mockery of drag, of that culture. So that was never going to happen." Now, the bit of that seems to have provoked the most criticism online is the first paragraph of that, where he talks about it looking like a mockery of maybe drag culture and that David Tennant would look ridiculous as a 6-foot tall straight man in the costume. Now, I think why, and that bit of the quote is the one that is screenshotted the most and has been shared on Twitter independently of the second half, and I think the second half is good. Look, I think this has been online very polarized, and I don't think it necessarily needs to be. There's an interesting discussion to be had around this, and I think people have gone to polar opposites of it very quickly and state their claim and are not willing to listen to a reasonable debate about it or to talk about it in any way. They're either on the camp of this might be my coffee. It's coffee. I've got a coffee from Starbucks. Not sponsored. Actually, it's not a coffee, it's a hot chocolate. Praline flavoured hot chocolate. Quite nice. Where was I before I was interrupted by my delicious hot chocolate? Yes, so people have kind of staked their claims and been very, this is terrible of Russell to say, or people going, no, he has, how dare you criticise him for this? And then there's these two opposing sides to this, but there's nuance to this. And I don't think anybody's the bad guy in this. I just think there's a lot of very delicate areas where people are trying to tread with good intentions and maybe not always getting it right. Now, that first bit that is retweeted a lot, I do think, and I agree with people, that the wording of that is not the best choice, let's just say. I don't think it's fair to say that it's a mockery of Jodie and her doctor for straight men to wear that outfit. It's a very gender-neutral outfit. I don't think it's fair, as Russell does in this bit, to call it women's clothing. It's absolutely gender-neutral clothing. It's not particularly clothing that personally I would wear because I don't like the style of the high-cut trousers that would show off a large chunk of ankle. That's just not particularly a style I particularly like. But I don't not like it because it's women's clothing, I just don't like the style. It's not women's clothing, it's completely gender neutral. And I've seen plenty of men cosplay as it. I don't know if those men are straight or not. Doesn't matter, because it shouldn't matter. It's just a doctor costume, and just like women have been dressing up in the doctor's outfit for the other 12 doctors, so can men dress up as Jodie's outfit. It isn't women's clothing, and I think that's what the two areas that I think people are most annoyed about Russell here is the fact that he's called it women's clothing, and that he implies that it would be a mockery for straight men to wear it. And I think people are rightly a little bit peeved about that. I think that whole bit was maybe misjudged in how it was phrased. Now, given the second paragraph where he talks about the reaction, because he's absolutely right in the bit next where he says, I guarantee you this is the only photograph papers would print for the rest of time. Yeah, it probably would be. And I can absolutely see why that would be a reason why they didn't want to do it. Because you don't want the papers to focus on that. That's not the image you want, that's not going to represent your new era, because he's not going to be in that costume, is he? He's going to be in his new costume. So you want all the press to relate to his new costume, and that's a completely valid reason to do it. I think if he'd written this and just said that would have been, and the next paragraph would have been so much better than including the paragraph before it. Because that's a valid reason, I think. I mean, there can be discussion about that, whether or not we should push back against the fact that that's what the newspapers would do, and go, well, who cares about them? But they have the show to think about, and they have the potential audience they're trying to pull in to think about as well. And so I can understand that makes absolute sense. Now, what's interesting about the next paragraph is that it kind of slightly reframes his first paragraph, but it still doesn't make it, I still don't think it completely excuses the ambiguity of that first paragraph, because he says what they would consider women's clothing in this paragraph. But in the previous paragraph, he had called it women's clothing. And I think that's what, if he'd done that reframed that first paragraph as in this is what they would have portrayed it as, that would be a completely different meaning to that paragraph. But he didn't. He left that to here. And yes, in hindsight, you could use the second paragraph to recontextualize the first one and go, okay, that's not, he doesn't think it's women's clothing. He doesn't think it looks odd for straight men to wear it, or that it's a mockery, but he would, that's what the newspapers would say. But he didn't say that in the first paragraph, and I think that's where he's fallen down. This is just my opinion, and I think it's the kind of balanced, nuanced opinion in that I think he had the best intentions, and I don't think he had any malicious intent with this whatsoever. I just think he maybe should have phrased it better in that first paragraph. The rest of it, I think, is fine, where he talks about, this, the papers would seize on this, the right-wing press would seize on this. He doesn't use the word right-wing press, but the press would seize on it, and claim it was a mockery of feminine traits, despite the fact that it isn't, that it's a mockery of drag, despite the fact that it isn't. And he is right that would happen. And it's fine. I think it's okay that they take that into consideration when making the decision. But I just think there would be less uproar. There'd probably still be some if he hadn't have phrased things that he had in that first one. I don't know. What do you think? I'm coming at this as a cis straight guy. So if you've got another perspective on it, please do let me know. I'd love to hear it in the comments below. If you partake in drag, do you consider it a mockery? Would you have considered it a mockery to see David Tennant in Jodie Whittaker's outfit? Do you consider Jodie Whittaker's outfit female clothes, or are they gender neutral clothes? Which is what I would consider them as. Let me know in the comments below. Do you cosplay? I'd love to know if you yourself are a man who cosplays as the 13th Doctor. Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. That's just mine. I just thought I'd make a quick video on it. It seems to have stirred up a bit of controversy on Twitter, and I don't usually talk about controversies on Twitter. But it just seemed to be that everyone was staking an extreme claim on this, on one or two sides, and that there was a lot in the middle that just seemed to be not being said, or is being said but being massively drowned out. So hopefully that's okay, and let me know what you think, and I will see you in a future Doctor Who video. Goodbye.